Okay, folks, when I say asphalt, you say green. Asphalt, green, asphalt, green, asphalt, green. How's it going, folks? It's Pat here from Asphalt Green's Recess Enhancement Program, and I'm here with another instructional video for you. This time for our game, I'm going to recess. Now, before we hop into the overview of the game, it's super important that we start off the way we always do, and that, of course, is with the safety check. So, before we start any game and after we finish any game, we always want to make sure that we and our students are washing our hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. We also want to make sure that at no point during the game are anybody's hands going anywhere near their faces, okay? And if anybody ever has to cough or sneeze, you can encourage them to just dab so that they're coughing or sneezing into their elbow. We also want to make sure that at all points during the game, everyone is at least 6 feet apart from one another at all times, okay? We want to make sure everyone is properly social distanced. So, if you finished your safety check, you're feeling really great, you can't wait to get started on learning more about this game, well, just give me 2 claps, give me 2 more, give me an oh yeah, and let's get started. So, it seems like everyone's ready to go. So, as mentioned, the name of the game is I'm Going to Recess. What's the name of the game? Oh, you're going to recess? Well, all right. I'll see you later, I guess. I'll just... Oh, wait. No, you're right. That's right. That's the name of the game, all right? Now, this is a great game for students in kindergarten up through 8th grade, all right? Or students within that age range or ability level range. As to where this game can be played, well, it's a circle game, so it can really be played anywhere, just so long as the space allows for students to form a circle while still maintaining at least 6 feet of distance between all other students, all right? So if you can do that out on the playground, fantastic. If you can do that in your gymnasium, fantastic. If you can do it in your auditorium, or if you can do it in a hallway, brilliant stuff, okay? So long as it's something close to a circle, and so long as students are 6 feet apart from one another, you'll be good to go, okay? And speaking of safety, this game requires 0 equipment, all right? So students will not be sharing any of the same items, so they won't be touching any of the same items. So we've got safety covered on that front as well. So as per usual, Rep has safety covered for you, and I always like to think that fun is a byproduct of safety, which means that we also have fun covered for you as well. Plus, I mean, it's a rep game, so it's going to be a blast anyway, right? But add in the safety aspect and it's just out of this world, right? But let's actually get into why the game is fun. So let's talk about the details of the game. And as we always like to do when discussing the details, we like to rep it out. So we'll start with R, ready. Talk a little bit about how we can get ready for I'm Going to Recess. So the first thing you're going to want to do in order to get ready for I'm Going to Recess is map out your play space and designate your boundaries, okay? As mentioned, this is a circle game, so long as your space allows for your students to form a circle or something close to it while still maintaining 6 feet of distance between all other students in the circle, you'll be good to play in that space, all right? Once you found that space, though, you can just visually mark off where you want your boundaries to be, right? And then you can move into a safety sweep. So you can remove any items in the play space that might pose a safety risk to you or your students during the game, and you can have a think about how you're going to work around any items that maybe can't be moved. After you finish your safety sweep, you can then begin to lay out equipment. As mentioned, this game doesn't need any equipment to be played, but if you want to lay down cones or tape to mark off the boundaries that you visually marked off earlier on, please feel free to do so and go for it, all right? Once you've laid out your equipment, you're like, I'm loving my space, it seems super, super safe, and it just looks fantastic with all of the equipment, well, then you can have the students gather on up so you can begin the game, all right? And you can gather them up either just as a group and have them stand 6 feet apart from one another. You can gather them up in a circle in the play space while standing 6 feet apart from one another, or you can have them gather up on a line, right, on one edge of the play space, standing 6 feet apart from one another. Whatever works for you, all right? And you can use the attention grabber that we used at the beginning of this video in order to help you do that, all right? And so, how about we practice it, right? So, when I say asphalt, you say green. Asphalt, green, asphalt, green, asphalt, green. And can I have everybody circle on up within the boundaries, and please make sure that when you do, you stand 6 feet apart from every other person in the circle, all right? Then, once you have all the students gathered up, you'll be ready to move on to E, explain in the rep model. Now, when explaining a game, it's always important to use a loud and clear voice. That way, all students can hear and understand you. You also want to make sure that you're asking students specific questions about the instructions you're giving while you're giving them, all right? That'll allow you to check for understanding and clarifying anything that maybe you weren't super clear on to begin with, all right? A few questions we would suggest you ask when you're explaining this game are, well, what does each word that you have to say begin with, right? And then what happens if you make a mistake? Now those questions will make a little bit more sense as we go through the instructions for the game, okay? So how about I talk through them right now and you follow along on the instruction sheet that you found on our website. So the first rule of I'm going to recess is something that you should already have students doing, and that is to circle on up and stand 6 feet apart from one another. Once students have circled up though, you can designate one student in the group to be the leader, all right, for this round. So, you can explain that the leader is going to start off the game by saying, I'm going to recess, and I'm bringing, and then they're going to say a noun that begins with the letter A, all right? So the leader might say, I'm going to recess, and I'm bringing apples, all right? What will then happen is it will be the person on their left's turn, okay? And the person on their left will then say, I'm going to recess, and I'm bringing then a noun that begins with the letter B, all right? So they might say, I'm going to recess, and I'm bringing blueberries, right? And then it will move to the person on the left of the person who just spoke, and you guessed it, they'll say the phrase and then say a noun that begins with the letter C. And this pattern will continue until the whole group has been able to get through the alphabet, okay? Now, no gibberish is allowed, so every word has to be an actual word and it has to be a noun, okay? And on top of that, if anybody makes a mistake, well, it's not just the person who made a mistake that will have some consequences, right? It will be the whole group because this is a teamwork game, all right? So the whole group will have to do 10 seconds of silly dancing, 10 jumping jacks, 10 squats if somebody makes a mistake in their group, all right? And that is I'm going to recess. So that's an explanation of the rules for I'm going to recess. So how about now we move on to the final portion of the rep model, P, play, and talk a little bit about how we can play the game so students are abiding by those rules. How we can play the game so as to keep it interesting and engaging for students. Before we can do that though, when I say asphalt, you say green, asphalt, green, asphalt, green, asphalt, green. And can we gather on up and stand 6 feet apart from one another? Brilliant stuff, folks. Thank you so much. So, a few things that we would suggest you just remind students about. First off, make sure everybody's staying 6 feet apart from one another, okay? So just throwing out those gentle reminders will always be helpful. Won't be too much moving around in the circle. There'll just be a lot of moving in place, but, always helpful to remind students who might get a little overly excited and get too close, okay? You also want to remind students to keep track of where they are in the alphabet, okay? Because that's going to dictate what they have to bring to recess. So they should just stay focused and stay paying attention to where everyone is at in the group, okay? If you wanted to mix up the game for your students, well, maybe you have it so that while students are trying to go through the alphabet, everybody's jogging in place, okay? Now, by doing so, they'll get more active, they might have a little bit more fun, and it might also make it a little bit more challenging for them. They'll be focusing on running, maybe getting tired, that they just might forget where they are in the alphabet, okay? And then the whole group is going to have to get even more active, and have a little bit more fun with everything. You can also add in that students not only have to go through the alphabet once, they have to go through twice, okay? Just to make it a little bit more challenging for them. And especially if they're running in place, well, now they're gonna have to pick different items, they're gonna have to think of what it is that they're going to say, it can just make it a little bit more challenging, particularly on those hard letters. I mean, thinking of 2 things that begin with X that you can bring, I don't know, right? And if students are like, we want even more, we want even to be even more challenging, well, maybe then you can just restrict what students are bringing to specific categories, okay? So maybe it's fruits, or maybe it's birds, right? And they have to think of the types of birds or the types of fruits, and those are the only ones that they can say, okay? So those are just some tips and suggestions from us, but if there's anything else that you feel like you'd like to add that might make it more challenging, more active, more fun for your students, please, 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 please do it, okay? You know your students better than us, and we totally believe that you've got it in you, all right? So that's the end of our tips and suggestions list, which means that we're at the end of the rep model and therefore the end of this video. Before we head on off though, when I say asphalt and you say green, asphalt, green, asphalt, green, asphalt, green. Can we gather on up and stand 6 feet apart from one another? Brilliant stuff, folks. I just wanted to gather you up to say thank you. Thank you for following along on this video, and I hope you have a great time playing I'm Going to Recess with your students. Please check out our website if you're looking for any more games, and until the next time, we'll catch you later.